Hi guys, my name is Elliot Highland Bethel and this page is about personal development, energy healing, and there's a lot of talks about fasting. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about belief systems, and I'd like this to be more of an interactive video. I'd like to ask you guys if you have any belief systems that you would like to change. Now, belief system is something that it's a program that we have. It's a belief that we have repeated and formed a habit of that is continuously replayed in our subconscious. So you've probably heard me say how 4 years ago I was a very, very big meat eater, and I believed I need to eat meat in order to be strong and to go to the gym and have enough protein. And then I cut meat out and went pescatarian. Then I went from pescatarian to plant-based, then plant-based to vegan, and then started fasting. And then started to really question about food and labeling and labels on food and how the labels affect food because they affect our belief systems, and how you can almost take a bottle of water and by putting a different label on it or writing certain words on the sides of the bottles of water, it changes your belief system around it, and it also changes the molecular structure of the water, as do the sounds when you speak to water. It changes the molecular structure of it. We're predominantly 71% water, so you can actually change the water that you drink in order to change how you feel in yourself. And this sounds very, very almost unbelievable when I say it and put it like that, but believe me, I've played around with this over the last 3 or 4 years, and as you've seen, I've gone through a process of not eating food for over a third of 2019, and now throughout the whole of 2020, going without solid food. So if you follow my journey over this year, I'm doing soups, juices, smoothies, teas, coffees, waters, nut milks for the first 3 months. And then gradually as the year goes on, the liquids are getting finer and finer. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I first started going vegan, I was hearing of people just giving up meat like that and going vegan overnight. And it wasn't something that really appealed to me. And I did it as a very gradual, slow process where I felt into it, and I could feel like, okay, now I can let go of that. Now I can let go of that. And I saw how my body was processing it and really letting go of things, and it was very gradual. I've actually gone very, very long periods of time without food or water now. So I know my body can do it. I've now created a new belief system around food, because I actually believe if we was to create belief systems around how we don't need food, and now this is where it gets very, very difficult for some people to understand, and I'm really fully on board with this, because if somebody said to me 3 or 4 years ago, you don't need to eat or drink anything, I'd have said, science, you need to. Your body can't survive without it. But science is a man-made construct. It's a belief system that's been created. And when you really look at it and observe, everything's just a belief system that's been created by someone, whether it's you or someone else. And then the more people that embody it, it becomes a reality, because a thought is just a thought. But then when more people start to actually have belief in it, it becomes a reality. So when I was doing long periods of time fasting without food or water, and in some cases food or water or contact with water, so no bathing or showering, I wouldn't tell anyone I was doing it, because at the beginning I knew that it was my belief and that somebody else's projected energy could have an effect on my energy field. So I did seven-day hard dry fast, which is no food, no water, no contact with water, and actually run retreats on this. And I'm doing a retreat next month where I take a certain amount of people into nature, because the environments you surround yourself in are very, very important if this is the first time you're doing this. So I'd never ever do a retreat in London, especially if it was someone doing their first time. I can actually go into almost any energy field or energy environment now, and I'm very, very confident in the belief systems and the programs and the paradigms I've created within my own subconscious, so nobody else can now affect them. It's just, they're my beliefs, and if you want to embody them and maybe step into something that's not, you've never experienced before, then the first step is to do it in the most easiest and safest environment you can. So when I do retreats, it'll be very much in nature. You'd be around fresh air, lots of trees, lots of water. There'd be a lot of breath work taking place, a lot of yoga to keep the energy flowing through your body. You'd be listening to certain sound frequencies. There's a whole list of things, and I'll probably do a separate video on that. But for today, I really wanted to find out and interact with you guys and find if you had a belief system that if you sit down and think about from the ages of 1 to 7, or from your adult life when you started work, you are programmed or you are encouraged to believe in certain things so that you operate in a certain way, like eating 3 meals a day. And then in America, I've spoken about how people generally eat 6 meals a day now, and how now I've gone periods where 14 days with no food or water, and I've done 40 days without food and just water. So when you change your belief systems and you open up to something you haven't seen before, other things start to, it's like the next stage gets shown to you, the next stage gets shown to you. But if you always stay within your comfort zone, you just keep on repeating the same patterns and repeating the same patterns and going over the same things, which is why I also find it very interesting to say to people, start writing with your left hand if you're right-handed. So write with your non-predominant hand, because the second you start doing anything differently, whether it's brushing your teeth with your left hand, writing with your left hand, driving to work a different way in the morning, even to the point where when I used to go to the gym and use the cross trainer, you always go forwards, forwards, and you're listening to music, whatever. But if you start to go forwards, then backwards, forwards, and then backwards, I started to learn that I'm actually burning more calories going backwards because you're incorporating larger muscle groups like the glutes. So I started to do a lot of backwards on the cross trainer, which I then found the next day, I was like, wow, I feel like I've done a leg workout and lifted loads of weights, when in reality, I've only been going backwards on a cross trainer. It's because those muscles have never been used before. So your mind and your spiritual senses, your psychic senses, they're very much like this. If you haven't used them, you need to start using them for them to come back online. And the more you start using them, the more, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more it grows. It's like a spiritual muscle. So once you start using it and looking into these things, they start growing and growing and growing and growing. And I believe that there's going to be a lot of spiritual growth, especially in 2020, but over the next decade, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on spiritual growth than there is physical growth. And I've mentioned about how I spent 20 years trying to master my physical body. And then in reality, the last 3 years I've spent time trying to master my spiritual side, and mastering my spiritual side and mastering my physical side. And the physical just changes with the spiritual now. So when you sit down and you think, you realize that everything's a thought form to a certain extent. So changing things in thought form, things change in the physical much easier. But if you try to change things in the physical, sometimes you have to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going before they change. But when you change things in the spiritual, when you change things in the energy, they just flow into the physical. It's like you build the foundations in the spiritual and the energetic, and then you just change your vibration and bang, the foundations are there. You just fall into the physical that you've created in the non-physical. So yeah, please do comment and ask some questions below. This will be a very short video today. The last two have been over half an hour, 40 minutes. So yeah, please do get in contact, and I look forward to replying to some of your questions. Thanks a lot.